Hey friend, Chris here from LogicProRules.com, the website that helps you get the most you can out of Apple's Logic Pro. Today, I want to look into and discuss why does it seem that Logic Pro only bounces in place or exports stereo files. This is a common misconception and myth. Logic Pro can export or bounce in place mono files just as well as stereo files, but you have to get to know one particular function in the bounce in place or export dialog. So I want to show you that right now so you can start bouncing mono files anytime you wish. Let's dig into it. All right, on screen, I have a single guitar track and region so we can really narrow our focus on what's going on here when I bounce or export. This guitar audio track is in mono, and you can tell based on three key indicators. One, for audio files, if I zoom in, you see a single waveform. You don't see two waveforms in the top and bottom of the region. Second, for audio tracks, if you look at the input section, if the input is a single circle, that means the channel strip and track are mono. But also keep in mind the output of a track because plugins can change a mono track into stereo and back. So if you take a look at the level meter, it's narrower than the stereo output meter. The stereo output's in stereo. The narrow level meter indicates the guitar track and channel strip is in mono at the output stage. So keep that in mind as well if you're working with software instruments. And just to confirm further, let me hit play so you can hear the guitar that's in mono and see the action on the level meter. Cool, so we're in mono. Step one is I'm going to bounce this mono guitar track in place inside the Logic Pro project to see that you can in fact bounce a mono file. So I'm going to go up to File at the top, go down to Bounce, and in this case I'm going to bounce the track in place, though you could use either option, bounce regions in place or track in place. All right, so the bounce track in place dialog offers a few different options. All you care about, all you want to be concerned with when it comes to bouncing mono files in tracks in place or exporting is this one option right here. Include or not include volume and pan automation. So you can see it's already been disabled, but it might be enabled for you. So all you have to do is just click on the little checkbox to the left to disable this option. And let's click OK. And look at that. We have another mono file because again, you see one waveform. We see the input is set to mono with a single circle, and the level meter shows us only one signal when it plays, not two for two separate signals of left and right. Awesome. So let me quickly just reduce the length of the project just so the bounce doesn't take too long. All right, so that's all you need to know for both bouncing in place and exporting. So if we do the same, I'll go up to File, go down to Export, and I'm going to export either the one region or the one track as an audio file. All the other parameters we're not going to worry about. All we care about is, once again, this option for include volume pan automation is not enabled or checked for export. Right, so I'll go down to Export now. If I squash this up, go to the Finder, go into my bounces folder. You can see there's the exported file. Let me drag it in. Look at that, exported file in mono, not in stereo. All right, next up, what happens when you have a mono track where you've made some panning adjustments, right? In this case, I have now panned the mono guitar all the way to the left. Take a listen. All right, so you can see the guitar's playing only on the left. Hopefully you can hear it if you're listening on headphones or on speakers. Now, if I bounce in place or export again, this time I'll bounce the region in place, and I'm going to make sure to not include the volume pan automation option. Check it out. All right, so we have a mono file. Perfect, right? It's in mono, and the panning has been carried over from the original track that I bounced, which is pretty handy when you're staying inside the Logic Pro project. But now if I export and I don't include volume pan automation, let's see what happens. All right, we'll go to the Finder. There's the new bounce. Drag it in. All right, we're still in mono, but no panning information has been carried over. Because I didn't bounce or export the audio file as a stereo file, Logic Pro has no way to bake in the panning information into the newly exported or bounced file. And if this is important to you, the ability to bake in these panning decisions, hard left, hard right, or anywhere in between, well then you have to bounce or export in stereo. So let's do it right now. All you have to do is just check this option, include volume pan automation to bake in any panning or fader adjustments. Let's click OK. And there you go. We now finally have 2 lines for 2 sides of a stereo file. This is the 0 crossing line. It represents 0 amplitude. And the guitar has been bounced in place to include that panning information. So I now have a stereo file as noted by the interlocking Venn diagram circles in the input section of the audio channel strip. And if we take a listen, booyah. This is a really important detail to keep in mind. If you want your fader adjustments, your panning adjustments, we're not even talking automation, just the adjustments to be baked into audio files that you can share with a collaborator or a mix engineer or whoever, you need to enable this option for include volume and pan automation. At this time, these are combined together. You can't just choose to include volume automation or pan automation. You have to include both. So now, let me hard pan, make a fader adjustment, and let's bounce in place, include. There you have it, baked right in. Let's now do this with export. So I'll make sure to include. Also add a custom name here. So volume pan. And I'll add an underscore. Here we go. And drag it in. There you have it. So now just to drive this home completely, let's make some automation adjustments. Right, so I'm going to work on volume. Let's do a little bit of a lift, bit of a drop. Let's also play with panning. So over the entire duration of this performance, I think. All right. So now let's bounce in place, include. Look at that. Right? Let's bring it up a little bit. That's a little too quiet. And we'll lift the whole thing. And lastly, let me just export and do the same thing. So we'll call this volume pan automation and export. All right, I'll zoom out a little bit. And let's drag this guy in. Now it looks like we're working with a mono file, but if I zoom in, you see the 2 waveforms, the left and right-hand sides. Again, Logic Pro, to be able to communicate or bake in panning information, the resulting file has to be in stereo. So you can export mono files. You absolutely can. If your channel strip is in mono, as in the input is set to mono, or the output based on what you see on the level meter, or if you have a plugin, for example, set to mono, I'll choose the channel EQ. You can see I have a stereo instance, but if I hold Option, click, I can change this from stereo to mono. And if I bounce in place and don't include volume pan automation, we once again have a mono file. So that's what I wanted to share with you today. That's all you need to know when it comes to bouncing and exporting mono files out of Logic Pro. I hope this video was helpful for you. If it was, as always, please subscribe to Why Logic Pro Rules here on the channel or on the website. And be sure to check out the description below where I always include links to free PDFs, guides, and templates to help you in your journey with Logic Pro. Thanks so much, and I'll talk to you later. Take care.